62 years, questions have been swirling over the assassination of JFK 2 months into office, and President Trump delivered on his promise of transparency, releasing more than 80,000 pages related to the investigation. However, some sensitive information was also released. Our next guest was among those whose private information was unfortunately made public in the release of those documents. He joins us now, former U.S. Attorney and Newsmax contributor, Joe diGenova. Joe, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Delighted.
So what private information of yours was released? What was your reaction to see your name listed in those newly released files?
Well, of course, I didn't realize they were going to release information from congressional committees, which had nothing to do with the assassination investigation itself. We were investigating on the Church Committee, which I was on in 1976. We were investigating assassination attempts by the CIA of foreign leaders and whether or not they had an effect on the assassination of President Kennedy. When they released these documents the other day, I was shocked to find out when I got a call from a reporter that they had listed the security clearance list of all the people on the committees, and I was on there, and on those lists were our names, date of birth, place of birth, and our social security numbers. Nobody had managed to redact our social securities number, which were of no interest whatsoever to the public, but are of great interest to crooks. It was utter incompetence by the people at the National Archives, and really completely unprofessional, and they broke the law. They broke the Privacy Act when they did it.
Unbelievable. Now, Social Security numbers were released. The administration said it would supply everyone who is still living with new Social Security numbers.
Well, that's ridiculous. Do you know what happens when you get a new Social Security number? You have to rebuild your entire financial and personal life in every conceivable way. It takes months. That is not an answer. That is not remediation. It's absolutely absurd to say you're going to give people new Social Security numbers. Believe me, anybody who suggested that has never been through an investigation where you see how starting a new Social Security number works. Believe me, nobody wants to go through that. The solution to this is you don't release this information. And what happened was it was clearly done hastily, and I am beginning to think that it was done purposely to embarrass President Trump, not to necessarily harm any one of us, which it clearly did, but to embarrass President Trump. And the fact is, the people who did this are going to pay. They are going to pay.
How are you going to make them pay? What do you mean?
I've retained counsel, and I intend to sue.
Oh, wow. Incredible. How are you involved I mean, you look like a young man. I mean, I'm sorry to be involved in this.
Well, first of all, I just celebrated my 80th birthday with all the folks at Newsmax. But here's what happened. I was a former assistant U.S. attorney in D.C., and I got a call from Howard Baker and John Tower to come up and work on the committee. And one of my assignments was to work on the assassination plots of the CIA against foreign leaders. And as part of that, we investigated the assassination of John Kennedy in order to see whether or not the CIA had anything to do with it, whether or not there was any foreign influence, which of course there was from Russia and others. And so that's how I got involved in it.
Have you received any threats?
Over the years, many threats. In fact, I've had to report many of them to the FBI. And who knows what's going to happen now. Fingers crossed. And of course, the idiots who released this information could have cared less. I mean, the thoughtlessness, the carelessness involved in this is just absolutely unbelievable. But it is the government. And so what do you expect?
True. What do you think about the release of the files, 80,000? Did it help deepen or lessen the mystery, all the questions surrounding JFK's assassination?
Well, a lot of this information has been in the public and written about in many ways. Many of us knew about the problem with Alan Dulles, who was the director of the CIA at the time, who was having a horrible fight with John Kennedy. And many of us were aware of the activities of the agency in doing things that were counter to the interest of the United States. At that time, what people didn't realize was we had a second government in place, and it involved people from the CIA who were involved in domestic activities, in subverting the government.